Good morning, America. How are ya? Monday morning rail. We'll be 500 miles before the day is done. They call me the train, the city of New Orleans. Hi, I'm Denny Yelsma, and I'm at the world famous Jacksonville Terminal Railroad Museum in beautiful Jacksonville, Florida, where the sun always shines and running trains is an absolute pleasure. Today is Monday, and you know what we do on Monday? You guessed it, we do show and tell. Show and tell is going to start in just a moment, but show and tell is always brought to you by Yelsma Graphics. Yelsma Graphics has been making railroad embroidery clothes since 1985. So go to yelsma.com for all your railroad embroidery clothing. With all that being said, show and tell starts right now.
Hi, I'm Greg Tern, and this is our third installment on freight operations of the Jacksonville Terminal Railroad Company. First, we're going to finish up with a couple more stories from A&P that I didn't have time to do last week. Okay. One of the things we had talked about was some of their problems that they had, the terminal had, with not getting correct information. Well, Seaboard had a bulletin from February 23rd of 1962 that regarded this direct problem. It stated that their people will use Form 72 and they'll put the full information. Car initial, number, contents, and it says actual contents, not just meat. You have to mark it whether it's fresh meat, canned meat, etc. You have to specially stamp cars that are perishable moving under refrigeration. And what I thought was especially interesting was this. There was a statement, this was underlined. It said, if the clerk writing the transfer sheet is unable to write a legible hand, he must use a typewriter. And like I said, this was underlined. In addition, they said all stopover cars must show the consignee for the Jacksonville stopover and also the final destination. So hopefully that would cure some of the problems they had in the past. In it was April of 10th of 62, they received WRT 76006, which was canned hams for A&P. Came over from the Seaboard at 1:35 p.m. on the 10th. It was fully iced at West Jacks at that time. On the 11th, it was noticed that the car was down to 2/3 full of ice. They called and asked A&P if they wanted it to be re-iced. A&P said no, just send it as it is. So they placed it at A&P at 11:30. This was a stopover car. It was released to go to Miami at 1:30 on the 12th by the FEC. And here's interesting. A&P wouldn't tell them whether the car needed to be re-iced or not. However, it was only 1/3 full of ice. So the railroad finally decided, well, we better put ice in it. And they took it to West Jacks and iced it at West Jacks before they sent it to A&P. And then the last interesting one, again, this is a misdirected car. Seaboard, or ACL, I guess it was, sent over Seaboard car 24348 on May the 27th. Yeah, it came from ACL. It was, according to the yard clerk, it was on track TY8. It was tagged canned goods for A&P. They took it out, spotted it at 11:15 that day. 2 days later, ACL called and said, we sent this to you in error. It should have gone to FEC. So they called A&P, and A&P told them, well, we've opened it, but we know this car isn't ours because it was full of beer. Now, I just wonder when they sealed it back up whether the car was still completely full. It doesn't say. Anyway, they put the car back in TY6 for FEC pickup. And that's what I have to say about A and B. Another company that the terminal switched was Chitty and Company. They were a grocery distributor on Dennis Street. And you notice here on their sign, they have a picture of the overseas extension of the FEC. This symbol appeared on all their canned goods and their other private label items. And I know we've talked about a little bit that Rodney's grandfather had a store, and we have a copy of that store right back there where it says JT Webb. Okay, and Chitty supplied JT Webb with their canned goods and product, and Rodney, as a young person being very excited about trains, was really intrigued and enthused by the labels that he saw in his grandfather's store. Now, if we can come back to the Chitty building, okay, special instructions were given. Notice this building has 4 doors. The Chitty warehouse actually also had 4 doors, and we know the following information. Door 1 was for flour, milk, bleaches, soap, and salt. Doors 2 and 3 were for canned goods, rice, and syrup. Door 4, cereal, toilet paper, paper bags, and tinware. Again, if you were the engine crew serving Chitty, you would need to be aware of that to make sure that you got the cars spotted in the proper place so that you weren't called back to move them. And in fact, on the 29th of June 1959, Chitty called ACL to move a car from their spur to Atlantic Bag and Paper. Now that was another spot on the spur that served Chitty, and this says they're not sure why they contacted SAL. They should have contacted the terminal company, but anyway, the terminal company sent up a switcher and they moved the car to where it was supposed to be. Even though it had come from Seaboard tagged for Chitty, so the terminal company originally spotted it where it was tagged. And April 16th of 62, they had a stopover car, C&O 5571, was a stopover for Chitty, and then after it left here, it was going to go to Orlando. It was, let's see, it was received from the ACL for 11 at 12:05, spotted on the 12th at 3:20. Chitty called for it to be picked up on the 16th, and it was delivered to the coastline on the 17th. Well, that's what I really had for Chitty. Okay. The other one that I was going to cover today is the engine terminal. Now, during the steam era, they would have had served inbound cars, coal, sand, supplies. They would have brought in fuel oil after the FEC converted their steam engines to oil firing, and would have loaded out cylinders. During the diesel era, of course, you would have had, again, fuel oil, sand, and supplies. Right now, we see there are 2 tank cars in the terminal, one at the old steam oil facility and one at the diesel facility. Just as an aside, the roundhouse that you see here is an accurate model of the terminal's roundhouse. It was scratch built by one of our old members, Jack Wagoneer. And having said that, I'll just finish with one little tidbit, if I can find it. Where is it? Where did I put it? Oh, yes. Here we go. April of 2024 would have been the 175th anniversary of the Central Railroad of New Jersey, the Big Little Road. Its earliest predecessor, the Elizabethtown and Somerville Railroad, was chartered